Good journey, everyone. Welcome to Not Long Ago. Not that. That's not what it is. Welcome to Space Oats Live. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm actually caught off guard. I hit the go button and then I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I don't even have any of my notes up, which I'm actually trying to find right now. It was on my tablet, but I guess not. I guess I'll just have to use my phone, which is what I usually do anyway. How's everybody doing tonight? Man, it's been a great week. We've had some Star Wars news related items. We'll get to that a little bit later because that's not what we're here for. We're here just to talk Star Wars and something really specific today, and we're going to kind of go back in time with that. But honestly, really, I want to kind of get everybody's. I did kind of put as the description of this podcast, who is Charles Lippincott? Hopefully you know who he is because he's a big part of Star Wars and getting Star Wars off the ground. And he's also a big part of our discussion tonight. But really, also connecting with Charles Lippincott is merchandising for Star Wars. All the publicity and everything that happened with it. And I kind of want to know from everybody, what's your favorite way to find out about Star Wars related projects, like upcoming projects? Do you prefer the trailers? Do you prefer, which kind of gives you a little bit, but not much. Do you prefer to go to conventions and learn there a little bit? Go to those panels that introduce us, get us excited about those amazing projects that are up and coming. Do you get more excited when the toys are released? Lego Star Wars, action figures, vehicles, all these things that come out, collecting those and getting you excited about who these characters are. The books leading up, sometimes we have prequel books that come out, in lieu of a film coming, giving us a little bit of backstory of some of the characters. A lot of times those don't come out until later, but most of the time the novels do come out ahead of the movie. And that's been the case since the very beginning. Do you prefer to read the book before you see the film? I know a lot of people do. I'm not one of those persons, but and then we have also comics as well that sometimes come out before comic book adaptations. Sometimes they come out after. Maybe there's lead up comic storylines because enough is given to the writers to create maybe some backstory on some characters. Do you prefer to kind of get some excitement that way or not? So I'm gonna kind of write this in here as in my chat. What form of kind of trying to figure out like how to put this. What form of what gets you excited about upcoming Star Wars projects? How about that? What gets you excited about upcoming projects? I'm not the best typer in the world. About upcoming Star Wars projects. That's going to be my question of the day. Feel free to answer that. Even if you come in live, if you come in later, I don't think I have anybody live as of yet, but if you come in later, answer that question. Even if you come into this question, even beyond this being live, please comment. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts and about that. Again, what gets you excited? Is it the trailers, the conventions, news from the conventions, toys, video games sometimes, comics, books? What is it? I'm going to reach around real quick because my drink is on the other side of my laptop, so I apologize. Was not thinking about that. Yeah. So what gets you excited? What gets you excited for Star Wars? Again, that leads us into a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight. The title, again, this is Space Oats Live, my Star Wars podcast, episode 77, and titled "I Find Your Lack of Faith Disturbing." A very famous quote from Darth Vader from New Hope, because we're basically going back to the beginning again today, and a lot of people didn't have faith in the Star Wars project. That's why I chose that. But honestly, I think a lot of faith was garnered by means of what this man did to Star Wars. And this man's name is the name is Charles Lippincott. Charles Lippincott is definitely not as famous as George Lucas. I honestly did not really know anything about Charles Lippincott until I started doing these podcasts. And my posts not long ago in this galaxy, that is really where it really kind of got me into a lot more of Star Wars and really just learning about everybody behind the scenes, those that just made that magic happen, those amazing people. And Charles Lippincott was one that I was not familiar with, and I have become very familiar with him. And I have to say, I agree with a lot of people's assessment that if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have a Star Wars. We definitely wouldn't. And I mean, really, what is behind me here, the little portion of what I have, merchandising wide, all stems really from him. If it weren't for him, we would not see any of this, and it really probably would not have gained as much attention, the Star Wars movies and the fandom as we have it today, if it weren't for Charles Lippincott. Without the late great marketing guru's legendary efforts to build excitement and underground momentum among audiences months before it opened, the success of Star Wars might have looked much differently. And it may have only been a one-off, honestly, because a lot of what he had to do really garnered the funds to keep it continuing. That's another big thing about it. Honestly, for its success, it probably would have gotten picked up by another production company, if not Fox continuing. But really, would it have had the control over it, which may not have made it succeed as well, because George Lucas had all the control using his own money for the rest of the movies. But definitely would have looked a lot different if it weren't for this man. A quote from George Lucas about Charles Lippincott: "Charlie was one of the founding pillars of the Star Wars films and phenomenon. He began in earnest the concept of licensing motion pictures at a time when the only other company doing so was Disney. Charlie was the one who said early on that we can make this work, and was the first person to both develop Star Wars licensing and engage with the fans. He had insights into marketing and public relations that were truly unparalleled." I love that statement by George Lucas because, for one, if you don't know, George Lucas was a Disney fan. He was actually there when Disneyland first opened, at least one of the first attendees of Disneyland. So George Lucas was inspired by Disney to, make his dreams come true. Really, I mean, because there's a lot of parallels. I've said this many times on my podcast, on my not long ago in this Galaxy broadcasts. There's a lot of parallels between Disney and George Lucas, which I think is why I like them both, and why I've really dove into both of their lives and been intrigued by them. And George Lucas is more of a modern day Walt, really, if you think about it. And I would think that if Walt did not leave us as early as he did, that him and George would have been friends, and there would have been much more collaborations and some fantastic ideas for the parks and resorts, maybe even earlier on with more collaboration, if those two were able to just be in the same room with each other. So really, with that in mind, the only other company really that was licensing motion pictures was Disney. And George obviously looked to Disney as inspiration and thought, why can't we do this for big budget blockbuster science fiction fantasy films? Disney animated, seeing characters marketed in that way was one interesting avenue because it really catered to children, but this was going to be more young adults. So, can we get that market the same way as Disney is for children, in a different way? And I mean, it ended up not being for young adults, it ended up being for adults as well, as the fandom continued to to continue with Star Wars. And, again, there wouldn't be this stuff behind me if it didn't work. So, that really is a true statement there. And George, having that idea and picking the right person was something that helped with that. And for Charlie to basically say, when George asked, we can make this work, that, before it even started, George, I want to do this. Charlie, we can make it work. Having somebody that is your right-hand man that agrees with your vision, that is going to put every effort into making it happen, is a friendship that can create success. So, I mean, even Walt had that with Roy, and other Disney executives as they went down the line always had like their right-hand man, and to kind of create and envision certain things and make it happen. And also, he did another thing that was quite interesting, is not only was he behind the scenes, but he was there, engaging with the fans, creating that fandom, being there himself, creating that momentum and I think that's very important. If you're in the creative process, you got to go out and sell it yourself. And he was kind of like George's voice in a way in doing that. When George couldn't get there, George is still behind the scenes, making the things happen, making the story happen so that we can see it on screen. And Charlie was taking that vision out there and sharing that and generating the momentum for it, which is something that honestly, that would be a dream job for me. Just going out there to conventions, as we'll see, just creating that enthusiasm, that passion for whatever you're selling, basically, because it is, you're selling the movie is what you're doing. And I've always had a little bit of I've always loved a little bit of sales in a way, selling a product. And honestly, once I believe in a product, I've sold it to many people. I can tell you that. When Star Cruiser was open, not only did I sell it to people to get there and to spend the money to go, I know I had a hand in doing that with a few of the passengers, but also to return, and then also even Disney itself, selling Disney to come to Disney, selling Star Wars Celebration. I've gotten people on board with going to that have never gone before, generating the enthusiasm, what it's about. I've certain, products that I've used, been very passionate about. I've gotten people to switch phones. And also I've got, I've been able to get people to go to certain restaurants just because of my love for certain restaurants. Any product that I pick up, Roosevelt's, I've probably gotten so many people into Roosevelt's with my work every day. Just, people always asking me about these shirts, and basically getting people on board with them. People I work with, people that come to my workplace. I know I've handedly sold many of these and gotten them on board because they're just such great shirts. And how could I not be able to sell them? I mean, I wear them every day, so it's something that I am passionate about. And when that passion's there, you can sell anything. And I know that that's what Charlie did. He saw George's vision. He agreed with it. He knew it was going to be, well, in a way, he knew it was going to be successful. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But he believed in enough where he could sell it for George to create that fandom. Charlie was a young movie publicist. He attended the University of Southern California with George Lucas. That is how they knew each other. Lippincott was hired in 1975, about 2 years before Star Wars came out, to help with marketing this upcoming space fantasy movie. He was given a very lofty title that incorporated so much. Honestly, if I was given a title like this, I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to be able to take care of all this. Vice President of Advertising, Publicity, Promotion, and Merchandising for the Star Wars Corporation. That's a lot. That's a lot. Advertising it, um, being in charge of publicity, you're going places to promote it, and then get the merchandise going as well. That's a lot of work. I don't know how many hours a day, how many days a week he spent, but I'm sure it was a lot. Um, and sometimes that'll kill a person. I know it would probably kill me if I had to do all that. Before the movie hit theaters in May 1977, Lippincott set out on a trailblazing quest to generate buzz among science fiction fans by making presentations at relatively modest fan conventions of the time. He went to different conventions, which was pretty fantastic. I'm gonna start sharing some of these pictures I have of him. Actually, not quite yet, but because that one's gonna come up a little bit later. But yeah, he made presentations at these conventions. He was the advertising publicity supervisor on Star Wars Episode IV: A New Hope, and basically presented the first public slideshow for the movie. For this movie, Star Wars, at the Hyatt House Hotel at Los Angeles' WesterCon. And that event took place not long ago in this galaxy today. So can you believe that? July 2nd, 1976, as part of WesterCon 29. WesterCon was kind of more of a Star Trek related convention, which was pretty interesting. That was really, a lot of fandom that went there. So I think Lippincott kind of used Star Trek as a gateway to get the fans to come over to Star Wars. A little bit different, a little less science fiction, more fantasy. But saw that as maybe a gateway of getting some new fans and or people of interest into this Star Wars film. And this was definitely considered a significant moment in the pre-release marketing of Star Wars. Lippincott's presentation at this event, this WonderCon 29, and then also other science fiction conventions, including San Diego Comic-Con, which was not long after WonderCon, in 1976 as well. And that really helped to generate interest among fans and really laid the groundwork for the film's success. Again, this was almost a year before. So these presentations really did have to work to get people interested in this new movie to be successful. Lippincott wrote in a blog of his once in 2015 that much has been made of the presentation at Comic-Con because it was the start of a Hollywood tradition of presenting movies at Comic-Con. Prior to Star Wars, movies didn't get announced at comic conventions, nor were comic books done in advance of a movie's release. So again, this is a very important part of groundbreaking Star Wars success that really influenced other pop culture movies, blockbuster movies from that point forward. We go to conventions now, and there's like whole days, whole mornings, whole panels of new releases that are announced. Pretty much every convention, every big major convention has an announcement nowadays. San Diego Comic-Con's a big one. New York Comic-Con, a lot of announcements there. D23, a convention, basically. I mean, it's Disney only related products, but now Disney incorporates Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, and so many announcements are made there. That's really like one of the biggest for Star Wars now is D23, besides Star Wars Celebration, which is every other year. So D23 fills in those years as well. But things are announced at D23 that aren't announced at Star Wars Celebration. Sometimes that gets us a little upset when we can't go to D23 and we're waiting for Star Wars Celebration and we wish the announcements were made there. But again, every other year, we still want to get more announcements, and it's fun to be able to see that. But that wasn't the case before Star Wars. You just didn't see movies, any type of movie, have any type of marketing within comic book conventions. And same again, like with comic books being released advanced, books, novels sometimes still happen, but comic books, no, that wasn't a thing. Mark Hamill actually shared a pretty awesome friendship with Mr. Lippincott, and now I'm going to go ahead and start sharing some photos. And I probably am going to have to maybe take this out of here. Well, let me see. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to use that one. How about that? There's Mark Hamill and Charlie Lippincott right there. The man on the right is Charles Lippincott with Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill once said in a statement, he became a legend of marketing for a reason. He was brilliant at what he did. We traveled the world together promoting Star Wars before anyone knew what it was. He was a good friend, and I'll always miss him. Mark Hamill said that was when the announcement of the passing of Charles Lippincott happened. So those two good friends, they again went all over traveling together with some of the. I mean, now you would call them press junkets, which basically happen a lot for movies. You know, certain stars of the movies will go around and be at these events or go on TV and promote films, go on talk shows, promote films. At this time, it was really going to these events, these comic conventions and things, which Charlie Lippincott did with Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was very, very big into helping to launch this Star Wars project as a success, just as much as Mr. Lippincott was. Lippincott wanted to attract potential fans through comic books as well. He approached Marvel Comics, hoping to convince a very skeptical Stan Lee to produce a 6-issue Star Wars adaptation. Stan Lee initially refused, but later agreed to the deal, and the comic run quickly sold out. So, again, another avenue of promoting a film that really hadn't been done. Again, usually adaptations of movies into comics really wasn't done. And to actually have the comic adaptation come out before the film you wouldn't think that would be something that would be a good idea, because if somebody read the comics, why would they want to go see the film? But early work of the comics, you know as well as I do that those comics did not actually lead into what the movie ended up being. It was a little bit different. Again, the 6-issue, I had some of these. Unfortunately, all of them have been lost and don't have them anymore. I have reprints, but yeah, the originals that I had, no more, unfortunately. I think I had the oversized ones. I don't know if everybody remembers the oversized ones, but I had the first 2 issues of the oversized comics from Marvel for the film adaptation, and they just got read so many times that they kind of disintegrated, I think, basically. But here's issue number 1 of Star Wars Marvel Comics. The first issue there, with Luke, Han, Leia, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, and X-Wings, Y-Wings, Death Star, TIE Fighters all in the front there. Looking fantastic. So this would have been some people's first look into Star Wars in the Star Wars story. Pretty fantastic there. Again, Stan Lee not really wanting to do it at first. Didn't think that was going to be something that was successful. I guess he was eating his words when it quickly sold out. That really showed that people were interested in this Star Wars movie and really got the attention of individuals. Lippincott also made a deal for a novel version of Star Wars. The book was released in November 1976, about 7 months before the movie. By the following February, so before the movie was released, the first print run of 125,000 copies completely sold out, according to Lucas biographer Brian J. Jones. So yeah, the novel. I have a copy of the novel, not this one, not this cover, but I do have one of the other covers of the novels. And this was one of the first copies. Novel by George Lucas, Star Wars, The Adventures of Luke Skywalker, with a very different looking Vader, kind of almost the Ralph McQuarrie style of Vader on the cover there. Same thing with the lightsabers, early artwork of the lightsabers and how they looked in there. A lot of the artwork of Ralph McQuarrie being on this cover here, looking a lot different than how it was ending up on the film. Again, a whole novel of the film already written out, so people can read the entire story and know the whole story. You would think that people didn't want to do that because you already know the story. Why would you go see the movie? But again, such a story that would just pull you in that you're thinking, I want to see this on film, especially since films did not do what they do today back then. So people were probably like, how is this going to be portrayed on film? What's the quality going to be like? Is this really going to be something that is going to live up to the novel? And it certainly did. It turned out a little bit different than some of the storylines in the film than they were in the novel there. Some stuff cut that were in the novel that weren't on screen, which kind of made it different. I think made some of us always think that we saw these scenes on film for a while. You've heard of those little those stories of people in the past that's happened with. Deals that Lippincott helped arrange with various companies to produce toys, other Star Wars merchandise earned many millions of dollars, helping Lucas finance his sequels. Those deals turned Star Wars into the first franchise merchandising powerhouse, still strong, definitely still strong, almost 50 years later. 50 years, can't believe it, coming up 50 years very soon. Again, what would be behind me if it wasn't that for that success. Lippincott conducted dozens of behind-the-scenes interviews for a book project. He spoke with Lucas, actors Hamill, Carrie Fisher, editors, composer John Williams, special effects artist, effectively making him one of the earliest historians of the low-budget production that ended up becoming a blockbuster. Without Charlie, I don't think Star Wars would have come close to the success it became, wrote former Lucasfilm director of fan relations Craig Miller in his book Star Wars Memories. Again, another person really contributing to the success of Star Wars, to Charlie Lippincott and what he did. When Star Wars was released, I expected it to do well, but not expect the staggering, overwhelming response. No one did. Lippincott wrote that in 2015. In our wildest dreams, we could not have predicted how massive a hit we had on our hands. I don't think anybody did. Again, even the promoter there, knowing it was going to be a success, excited about it, but still shocked at the overwhelming success that it had. And I'm sure he felt that way all the way until he left us. Lippincott would later go on to promote other science fiction films, including Alien, another big one, right? And there was some pretty interesting advertising and marketing for that one as well. So if you remember that, which is I do remember that, and he produced a documentary on comic book artists, promoted the 1995 film Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone. I remember that movie getting promoted, even though it didn't do very well. It is kind of a cult classic, though, honestly. I would like to see that redone. That movie has not been brought up in a while. Unfortunately, in later life, Mr. Lippincott had a little bit of a bad taste in his mouth with Star Wars. He wrote that his association with Star Wars left a bad taste in his mouth, which he said was partly due to being criticized for making a deal with Kenner Toys that Lucas apparently felt should have been more lucrative. He also believed his contract with Lucasfilm entitled him to royalty payments he says he never received. Um, I hate when like money ends up being like a sore subject with certain creators, and honestly, it almost leaves a little bit of bad taste in my mouth for George Lucas, because usually when somebody is deserved of more money, it's probably true, especially in the creative process. Sometimes really all areas of business, it's the little guy that kind of gets screwed a little bit, and it doesn't really trickle down enough to those hardworking people, those frontline people that really do a lot of the work. And I mean, Charlie Lippincott wasn't even really a frontline person. He was in charge, and for him to feel that he did not get what he was worth, I don't really know if honestly how much he made. Probably did not at that time have a contract that put into effect what he should have gotten in a return. I'm sure he probably should have made more money. I'm sure, but Charles Lippincott ended up dying at the age of 80 at a Vermont hospital while suffering a heart attack. This was back during COVID times, but had nothing to do with COVID. But yeah, so not too long ago, Charles Lippincott with us. But again, so many things that he did that I think Star Wars would have been different. I really don't think that that the attention would have been there had not there been the promotions that there were of Star Wars. Going around to these conventions, getting the story out there to the people that would become fans. Going into your comic book store, seeing these comic books, Star Wars, what's this? Let me pick it up. Reading it, gaining that excitement. Readers, picking up a new sci-fi novel. How many sci-fi novels were around at that time? Science fiction, fantasy novels. To be able to see a new, oh, this looks interesting. Let me pick this up. I've heard a little bit about this Star Wars story that's coming out, but and then reading that novel, wanting to see that on screen. You have so many different types of people that got the attention. There's the comic book people, the book readers, again, science fiction, fantasy fans. Those were just that were into toys. Maybe you're into G.I. Joe, but you like the you kind of do like science fiction. These toys look interesting. Let me buy these toys, and then you're curious as to what stories are told behind these action figures. All of this made for some amazing things. So like really going back to like what really gets you excited about upcoming Star Wars projects. As far as like now for me, it's the conventions. I love going to the conventions. I love going to the panels. I love hearing about new projects getting announced. I didn't do that much in Japan. I really wanted to explore a different way. It was a lot of fun to be able to do that and just hear what was going on, hear what was getting announced. I was fine with that, not being like right there. I don't feel that I need to see the trailers, because the trailers are going to get released, right? Eventually. But just the news of new announcements while you're there is so much fun to be able to hear live going on, and then just hear the response and start talking about it with the fans is really fantastic. So I think that's my favorite avenue now. I know growing up, it was really the trailers, waiting for that trailer, that trailer release, gaining that excitement, being there when it was shown for the first time, either at the beginning of another movie, going to the theater, buying a ticket, waiting in line just to go see that trailer, and then leaving, not even bothering to see the actual movie that it's with. Or, watching whatever avenue of television that it was going to be released on for the first time, Monday Night Football, or the Super Bowl, or it's been tons of different avenues, and just being there to I remember recording them when they came on, so I could watch it over and over and over again. And now we have the internet. You can just really once it comes out, it's there, and you can just continue to watch it again and again and again. which is really fantastic. So I think the trailers kind of really are my second favorite avenue. And then, I'm not big into, I just can't collect as much as I used to. So the toys and things don't get to me as much as they do anymore as far as promotion. But I do enjoy like going down the toy aisle, looking at some of the action figures that are created, all of that. And the comics and the books, I'm a big fan of kind of waiting for that until afterwards. So it's not really something that I've always been interested in reading anything before the stories. I don't want to know the whole story before I go and see a movie. I've never been in that way where I've wanted that to be the case. So, but to each his own. Everybody gets excited about new projects in different ways, and they have a lot of fun doing that. So, but that is Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. Is really the main part of what I wanted to talk about tonight. There has been some news, that has come out this week. Some pretty cool stuff. Lego Star Wars. We actually find out that the next Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, Pieces of the Past. We have a date for that, a for sure date, because there was a poster that was released. So it's September 19th. And can't wait for that to come out. I was a big fan of Rebuild the Galaxy. I thought that was a fantastic Lego Star Wars project that came out last year. A lot of fun. Can't wait to see that series continue. Dan Stevens is voicing a new character. Dan Stevens, great guy. I mean, I've really followed Dan Stevens. He's done so many versatile projects. I was introduced to him with Downton Abbey, actually, being a fan of that show. And then Legion. I loved that show, and he was Legion, which was really cool. He's just such a great actor. I love him. He played Beast, Beauty and the Beast live action. So many projects Dan Stevens has been in. So for him to voice this new character, Master Solitus, I think is his name. 2 purple lightsabers, looks fantastic. Kind of got the Emperor look almost. But he is Jedi Bob's former master. So can't wait to find out more about that story as we get the next adventure of Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy coming in September. Also, it is July. I have not looked for any yet, but there is a collaboration with Star Wars and Coca-Cola this month called Refresh Your Galaxy. There are 30 limited edition character designs. And there is immersive augmented reality tied into this, which sounds pretty cool. A lot of the cans you can get in the stores, I'm guessing. You got original taste soda cans, which include Lando, Obi-Wan, Padme, Kylo, Ahsoka, Darth Maul, K2SO, Boba Fett, Poe, the Mandalorian, Cassian, Grievous, and Palpatine. Zero Sugar has Darth Vader, Yoda, Princess Leia, Anakin, Luke, Chewbacca, Han Solo, BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2, Finn, Rey, Grogu, and an Imperial Stormtrooper. And then there are some, which these are the ones that I'm really going to try to get myself, is the ones that are only available at Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort, which is the Mandalorian and Grogu, First Order Stormtrooper, and Chewbacca. So yeah, really cool cans. Again, with the red backdrop, some of them look fantastic, especially the dark side ones. Yeah, you can be on the hunt for these starting this month. There's a cool advertisement that you can see on StarWars.com about it. And those are going through the month. Also, now that the High Republic is finished, there is a complete chronological reader's guide on StarWars.com. Chronological reader's guide as far as the phases, or you can read them how you want to read them as far as chronological, which phase 2 actually came before Phase 1, timeline-wise. So you can go back and start that. In fact, if you were doing it timeline-wise and you're reading the first story of the High Republic, that is the Quest of the Jedi series, which is Phase 2, and the book would be Quest for the Hidden City, would be the first one, which came out November 1st, 2022. That is it. I had one person join in at the end there. Thank you for joining. Go back and watch the rest. Tell me what excites you about upcoming Star Wars projects as well. Yeah, they just got scared and went away. Anyway, thank you for watching, everyone. Please like, subscribe to this video if you so enjoyed it. I will be back next week, I think. No, I'm not. I won't be back next week. Unless I do it on Tuesday. I could do it on Tuesday night. I might have to do this on Tuesday night. Or maybe Friday night. Maybe I'll do it Friday night. We'll see. I might do it Friday night. I think I'll do it Friday night. Maybe next Friday. We'll see what happens. My schedule's a little bit different next week. But thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next week. Until next time, remember to do something Star Wars today. Watch some Star Wars. Listen to some Star Wars. Read some Star Wars. Play some Star Wars. Get into that Star Wars merchandising, as we talked about tonight. What is your favorite? Have fun doing that. Most importantly, whatever you are doing, may the stars light your way. Have a great night, everyone. Hopefully, I'll see you next time.